Hey everybody, so today is our second episode, and since we're covering again the three topics, the body, mind, and staying safe, today we're going to actually talk about the mind and how basically what is the mind and how can we actually get to gain peace and some insight into what can sometimes make us anxious. And so everything starts with a thought. Everything starts with an idea. And if we go to the philosophical meaning of what is a thought or what is an idea or how does it come up, I mean, we can go hours and hours to try to explain it. I mean, from a biological perspective, maybe an idea or a thought is just a neuron or group of neurons activating and us getting that thought come up. But also sometimes those thoughts are triggered by memories or experiences that we might have from the past, right? So the idea though, or not the idea, but the thing is that these thoughts and these ideas will actually emerge without our actual consciousness. We really can't control to an extent what we think. We can observe and we can decide what we can pay attention to or not. And that's where the key lies into having some sense of peace. And it can make the difference by knowing how to get to that differentiation and discrimination of knowing what to let go and knowing what to hold on to. Because at the end of the day, those feelings that come up, those ideas, those thoughts, those emotions, they are transitory. They only stay as long as we give them the attention that we want to give them. And they only stay as long as we hold on to them. So we have to decide and be very careful with what we decide to hold on to. And not only that, but at the same time, we also have to be careful and decide what we want to ingest. Just as we are talking about taking care of our bodies by looking at our nutrition and things that make our body feel well, we also have to realize that there are also things in media and the news and just in general things and places and people that will also interfere with how we think, how we understand things, with the ideas that come up. And it's not to blame or point fingers, because nobody can really influence you unless you allow them to influence you. But to a certain degree, people can plant seeds, and even without our own awareness, those seeds can grow sometimes, and they grow like weeds. And we just got to be really careful with making sure that we are weeding out our mind all the time. And we do that by actually observing the thoughts that come up. And some of the very common things that people often tell to do is meditate and basically observe the thoughts that you come and that pass through you as the stream of consciousness unveils. But also, it doesn't mean that you have to just sit down and be quiet, close your eyes, and observe your thoughts. The point of meditation is actually also to be one-pointed and have the mind focus on one thing. So just as you could actually gain that kind of like discrimination and discernment from letting go and holding on to certain things, you can learn that as well doing something in specific. And by doing that something in specific, whether it's doing the dishes, cleaning your bathroom, maybe knitting, anything that is manual, that you are paying completely and full attention to what you're doing right there, and just allowing the focus and the concentration to be on that. While things can come up as you do those, but you just let go of them. And that's the idea of meditation. So it can be done with anything that gets you into that zone where you're just so focused on what you're doing that everything else doesn't matter. And that in itself will help you have a better sense of letting go and not holding on to things that don't serve you. Now, the other thing is that these thoughts and these ideas that might creep up, that some might be weeds, some might be flowers, right? So you gotta be careful of what you pull, right? But these thoughts, these feelings, these emotions, they have the power to create and they have the power to destroy. And just like anything, it's in us and it's in our hands to decide what we want to do with them and what are they actually calling us to do. So we have to have also that discernment to say, like, wait, is this thought actually gonna trap me in a cage, or is this thought gonna free me? And some people might feel more comfortable trapped in a cage of their own building than actually facing the uncertainty of freedom and things that are unknown to them. And there isn't a right or wrong question or right or wrong answer, I'm sorry, but it's just a way of living your life. And sometimes people feel safe in that cage that they might build with their thoughts and their emotions. Sometimes they might feel anxious if they're removed from that specific environment. Sometimes they might feel anxious when they're too free and where they have too much to choose or too many things to decide from. So in all, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just a matter of knowing what are the things that you want to hold on to, what are the things that you want to let go, and how to actually observe and pay attention to the things that should be paid attention and the things that you should just let go. It sounds easy, but it's a hard task, and we will talk about different techniques to do it as we go through the weeks, and I'll explain a little bit more. But the one thing that I did want to say is that in the process of creating and destroying, which is not just that creating is great and destroying is bad. It's like they're both related, and it's a dynamic relationship where sometimes we're creating and sometimes we need to destroy things from the past that don't serve us anymore. And sometimes we need to create new things that will allow us to move on from patterns of behaviors that have not served us, and thoughts that have not served us, or expectations that have not served us in the past. And that is the way to change. It's not that you unlearn something, because unlearning something is very hard, but you learn something new, you create something new, and by creating that something new, you have something to go to, and you stop doing what you used to do before. And in that way, you kind of like let go of that. It's not that it's completely destroyed unless you completely tear it down, but that's kind of like really hard. But it is abandoned, and something that is abandoned, just at the same token where it doesn't mean that you have to go back, you might regress to those states of what you had learned previously, when you might be hurt, when you might be stressed, when you might be depleted of your resources, your cognitive resources. So with that said, we will continue this discussion about how to really create for ourselves, with our minds, with our feelings, with our emotions, those safe spaces where we can truly be ourselves and where we can truly focus on the things that matter to us and that allow us to create a life that is not necessarily like, well, hopefully it'll be positive, right? Like, you'll always have good things to think about, but when those things that are not necessarily great happen in our lives, you have the resources to decide what angle to give it and what perspective to take, so that you can actually embrace change, embrace the challenges that growing and developing actually are put into our journey to grow and to develop. And those challenges we face will sometimes be seasons, sometimes days, sometimes weeks, sometimes years, but the idea is that we move through them and we evolve through them and we grow from them. And so with that, that was the talk for today, and next week we will do we will talk about how through our minds, through our thoughts, our emotions, and our behaviors, we also create those safe spaces where we can truly be ourselves and we can truly learn and grow and just become the best version of ourselves.